Thanks very much, Michael. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to talk about one of the favorite parts of my collection, linen postcards for New York City, which cover the time period about 1932 to the mid-1950s. The first card is featured in Linen Postcards, Images of the American Dream, which was published in 2002, a classic large letter linen postcard. One can't talk about New York City without talking about sports, especially with the Knicks winning the NBA championship this past week. Quite nice picture of night baseball at Yankee Stadium, New York City by Ticknor. This is the first Yankee Stadium, which was preceded by the Polo Grounds. The stadium lasted from 1923 to 2008. Just a really nice, bright card. Of course, New York City isn't complete without night views of the brightly lit skyline. I believe this view is from the 60th floor or so of the Woolworth building on Broadway. A nice view of the Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Williamsburg bridges at night. Ticknor, another Ticknor card, this time looking towards the tip of Manhattan from the 86th floor observatory at the Empire State Building at night. We can see the different streets, Broadway and Fifth Avenue and Sixth Avenue and so on. Just a wonderfully vivid card. Times Square, can't visit New York without going to Times Square. This is a view from 1951. We can tell that by the marquee on the Lowe's State Theater, which is featuring one of Clark Gable's films from that year. I see a lot of the other signage for Pepsi and the Automat, of course. Vivid card, great matching of colors. Special card. Some people call cards like this stunners. They just excel in so many ways in terms of composition of the card, the design, the reproduction of the colors, the detailing, and another view of the Wrigley's gum sign produced by the Kurt Tyke Company, I believe, for the Wrigley Company. A similar card had a print run of 500,000 cards for the Wrigley Company. Great details, probably taken from a painting rather than a photograph. The Bond Store and the closed statues. The Bond Store was Times Square for many decades. During the day, the statues were closed, didn't have any clothes, but then there were electric lights that could be turned on at night so that they did appear to be clothed. We also see Woolworth Street on the bottom. Lots of great advertising. This is a Ticknor card that was published through its distributor, Acacia Card Company. Chinese restaurant in Times Square from the early 1950s by Andres Court. Has an Art Deco theme. Quite a nice card, a little hard to find. Arcadia Ballroom at Broadway and 53rd Street in the Times Square area. This is an EC crop card. There aren't that many EC crop cards for New York City. The other more local publishers dominated the market, such as Color Picture, Harry H. Bauman, and Ticknor, together with their respective distributors. A card like this might have been produced in 25,000 cards at a time, and so on. 7th Avenue Hotel Teresa in Harlem. This card is particularly interesting because it's a very difficult card to find. Normally, these cards were sold in packages of 20 or 50, 25 cards for 25 cents, for example. Perhaps it was only sold in the Harlem area, or perhaps some local retailer claimed that there weren't any cards of the Harlem area, and maybe that's why this was produced. The Hotel Teresa, during times of segregation, was an important part of the black cultural scene in New York City. Fidel Castro also stayed there when he came to New York City in 1961. Another part of the Harlem area, again, another Ticknor / Acacia Card Company card, shows 125th Street as the heart of Harlem. Also has the Apollo Theater in it. Details is kind of nice as well. Famous Tavern on the Green restaurant in Central Park. This is a Harry H. Bauman card. Not too hard to find. Some nice insets on the card to complement the background outside view. The restaurant was open all year round. It's not far from the west side of Central Park. This is one of the cards that was featured in the insets in the previous card, Dance Floor and Cocktail Lounge. This must have been a very high-grossing restaurant in its day. An early 1932 Kurt-type card, deckled edges. So it's really impressive, the quality of this card for early type cards. Very lovely card. Duffy's Radio Tavern near Rockefeller Center. Tavern was a radio sitcom from 1941 to 1951, with the manager being Archie. So that's why it says in the caption, Ed, quote unquote, Archie Gardner. So a little obscure trivia for you, if you didn't know that, if you're not an astute scholar of the 1950s radio sitcoms. Lovely card. Lum Fong's Chinese restaurant near Times Square. They had a branch as well down near Canal Street, lower part of Manhattan. Quite a nice, bright and vivid card. Dubonnet Restaurant, purveyor of French-Hungarian cuisine. I have to admit I've never tried French-Hungarian cuisine. This is a 1937 Kurt-type card. Bird in Hand Restaurant with Southern Fried Chicken. Quite a lovely card with wonderful graphic art and layout. I would categorize this as a stunner, especially with the kind of Mr. Peanut type man in the top right hand corner. Ham and Egg Corner Restaurant, world famous for ham and eggs and its coffee too. Always open for your eating pleasure. Northeast corner of 51st Street at 1652 Broadway. Little advertisement as well for the restaurant equipment installer. Drake Restaurant and Bar was in Midtown between 6th and 7th Avenue opposite Gimbel's. A really well-designed card that grabs your attention to the dining area and the bar stool area, as well as the outside area. Maine Lobster and Clam House Restaurant. This is another Bauman card. The different panels, as in the last card, really grab your attention. We've got a kitchen scene, which is unusual, and then we've got the large dining room, and of course a lobster. Kit Kat Club and Ross Grill. These were Times Square area cards. If you look very closely on the Kit Kat card in the lower panel, the band is still playing on the stage, which is maybe a little joke by the graphic artist who did the card. Ship Ahoy Restaurant was that where Columbus meets Broadway. A couple versions of this card. Bauman card, a great card. On the back, it also has an endorsement by Ed Sullivan. This card was aimed more at local people, I guess the lunch trade. A little difficult to find. Just great design in sort of a 3D sense. A little peek at the different districts of New York City. Shows you clearly where you can find different locations of this particular chain of sandwich shops. A generally rare linen postcard for the Norma Tropical Drinks Store. I don't know why it's rare. Maybe it wasn't printed in large numbers, or maybe the business didn't last. But it's one of the best New York City linens. Times Square area, postcards promoting spaghetti. So there's really a tremendous range of advertising postcards. Food products, food itself, different companies that had locations in New York City. Here we've got a spaghetti manufacturer on the left-hand side, and the right-hand side is Planters Peanuts. The Planters Peanuts card is an EC crop card. You don't see too many of those for New York City. A wonderfully composed card. Just everything's right about the composition of this card. The corners, the lettering at the top, the skating pair in the bottom right-hand corner. Some odds and ends advertising cards. The one on the left is for a florist shop. The one on the right is for the Mosler Safe Company, which had its main office and showrooms in New York City. It also had an exhibit at the 1939 to 1940 World's Fair. Lost and destroyed great public space, the main concourse of Pennsylvania Station. Of course, Pennsylvania Station is still there. It's just the concourse above the basement is all gone, replaced by Madison Square Gardens and a skyscraper. The railroad company was broke, and so they didn't have any qualms about destroying this great public space. It is still much mourned. Preserved and thriving, the main concourse of Grand Central Terminal, a Kurtyke card from 1933. The interior of the Protestant chapel at the Bellevue Hospital, a nice card, not a little hard to find. The bride's altar at the famous little church around the corner, a 1936 Kurtyke card. And of course, I have to show the Canadian Pavilion at the 1939 to 1940 New York World's Fair, a Ticknor card. The Czechoslovak building at the 1939 to 1940 New York World's Fair. Czechoslovakia had, of course, been taken over then by Germany, so we have the caption on the building: "After the tempest of wrath has passed, the rule of thy country will return to thee, O Czech people." The pavilion also had a restaurant, which was the old Prague restaurant, which was typical of many pavilions at the 1939 to 1940 World's Fair. Really helped introduce French cuisine to New York City. The chefs from many of these restaurants, in a way, kind of got stranded, so they ended up staying in New York and opening restaurants, which was much appreciated by the people interested in fine cuisine. This is a difficult card to find. I purchased it at one of the meetings of the Metropolitan Postcard Club. The Formosan Tea Garden of the Japanese Pavilion at the 1939 to 1940 New York World's Fair. I wonder, correctly or not, whether people destroyed cards such as this after Pearl Harbor out of anger. But it's quite a lovely card. It's really nice detail on the kimonos of the waitresses. The amusement area at night at the 1939 to 1940 New York World's Fair, part of a series of about 125 cards published by the Miller Art Company, which were printed by Ticknor. I like the abstract aspect of the rendition of the amusement area, the fireworks that were going off. And we can't forget Coney Island, of course. This is a large letter card by Coney Island by Acacia and the Ticknor Company, with different aspects: bathing beauties, the rides, especially the roller coasters, the rolling chairs on the boardwalk, the parachute jump. The bathing beauties at Steeplechase Park Pool on Coney Island. Steeplechase Park is no more, of course, destroyed by, we know whose son is the President of the United States. The Tornado roller coaster at Coney Island. A lovely card, especially showing all the little souvenir stores just outside the roller coaster. Very vivid. Harry H. Bauman did some long series. This one there's about 38 cards, different views of New York City, some unusual that aren't covered by other publishers. This is not a very vivid early morning view of New York City. We can just see a ferry in the harbor towards the right-hand edge of the card, and the skyscrapers and the piers in the distance. We don't know if it's the ships coming in or out, but in any case, it's a wonderful early morning view. The majestic Normandy, Queen Elizabeth and Queen Mary tied up after the outbreak of World War II. We all know that the refitted for troopship purposes, and that the Normandy ended up catching fire and burning at the pier and was an irreversible loss. A great ship with a sad end. Newly opened George Washington Bridge about 1940, looking towards New Jersey. The other big Harry Bauman series is of LaGuardia Field. There's 21 cards that were based on, I believe, real photo views by Harry Hoff. At least some of them are. They show planes taking off or planes parked on the ground, different airlines, including TransCanada Airlines, the forerunner of Canada's national airline, Air Canada. This is the New Yorker Hotel Aviation Terrace at LaGuardia Field, where people would come and watch the planes depart, both on the restaurant terrace and on the kind of the balcony to the left of it. Those days of airports being a novelty are long gone. Time to depart. The show's over. But I hope you share my feeling that many great cards of New York City produced by companies like Kurt Teig, E.C. Crop, Color Picture, Ticknor, Harry H. Bauman, wonderful cards that capture the always busy spirit of the great metropolis of New York City. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Kyle. I noticed that a few cards that were night scenes, and it got me thinking that I don't know that I remember seeing postcards before that had night scenes. Is that, and obviously maybe New York City it leads itself to that, but is that true that there aren't really that many postcards out there that were done with photos taken at night?
If you're a collector, you will find them. There's a man in Calgary, Alberta, named David Daly, who has a big collection of night scenes, and they're out there. Sometimes small town photographers will specialize in them. They're there. You just have to look for them, and they will turn up.
That was a great show. I wonder if you also collect exterior New York City hotels that are on linens, because there are so many of those. I don't know if you pulled them out for some reason or not interested, or they seem to be underrepresented here.
I could have done a presentation of 200 cards, and it still would have been as entrancing, but I space for them. There's some great hotel cards where there's 3 panels that show different hotels as well. They also have maps of the hotel on them, and that's another different presentation I haven't got to yet. So.
Thanks.
Is there a particular kind of New York City linen that is more sought after, more expensive, like that are hard to get? Just a particular types that are, or like what is it that people really seem to want the most in your...
Well, people want the Chinese restaurant linens. There's some novelty cards that people are looking for. Cards that are just fall into that stunner category. I guess it just depends on the individual collector. Some people don't collect restaurant cards. I collect them, and I think they're great examples. A lot of these cards were produced in large numbers, but occasionally, like that Norma Tropical Drinks card, there's a card that's produced in few numbers. So you can collect for many years and not see some of these scarce cards. And you have to go to a show like Allentown to buy a card like that, or the New York City card. There's one card that has a plastic eye that I haven't acquired yet. I've seen it. It's very hard to find for a nightclub in Brooklyn. So one can put together a collection not without too much difficulty of linen cards on different topics, different within that New York City umbrella. You can have hundreds of linen cards just for the New York World's Fair from 1939 to 1940. Are really exceptional cards. These publishers produced very high quality cards for the most part.
A copy of The Art of Rockefeller Center by Christine Russell.
No, I don't have that book.
She just did a lecture with the Skyscraper Museum called Luncheon on the Beam. She wrote a book of the photographers who took all the photographs of the RCA building. She's an archivist. She's about 92 now, but she's still working. And she said it took her, she did this book called Luncheon on the Beam, and it took her 7 years to write it.
I'll look for that online. It sounds very interesting.
It's on YouTube. You can see the lecture that she gave.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great then.
That was a really nice card of Penn Station. It was a crime when they tore that down. It was one of the great McKim, Mead and White buildings. It was the only time my father ever walked the protest line, was protesting to really... The other thing they did that was awful was the cheapest way to get rid of the rubble was to put it on flat cards and take it underneath the river. Oh. And the Pennsylvania Railroad made a big curve going out into the Jersey meadows. And they just dumped all these beautiful columns over the side of the tracks, and they went down.
Sculpture, everything.
Oh. Yeah, they were there for years.
Kyle,
that's a lovely card, though.
Detroit did a really beautiful one of that concourse. It's probably the best image they had ever done.
The floor was all glass blocks, so it lit up the tracks underneath.
There's many wonderful series of these important infrastructure pieces of New York City. So part of the story of New York City in the 20th century is it develops all these advanced transportation links in terms of tunnels and bridges like the George Washington Bridge and the Triborough Bridge. So it's no longer, so it's both a port, but it's not really a port. So the transportation links become almost seamless in a way. So it's a fascinating metropolis, and Postcards tell its evolution in the last 100 years or so.
Michael, what was that lady's name again?
Christine Roussel. It's Roussel. Roussel.
Oh, thank you.
Christine. She was really great. You should really take a look at that. She said she's an archivist. She has access to all of the photographs, and she knew Nelson Rockefeller, who she worked with and for. It's a great Zoom. Your Zoom was spectacular tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks very much, Michael. Also deserving credit are the graphic artists who helped create these. For the most part, they're anonymous people. They may have been art students, or we know almost nothing about these people who worked for these different companies to create these real pieces of artwork in many cases.
What I was surprised about is there's so many multi-views in there as well. Was that very common back in the 30s and 40s?
Well, that the salesman might go around with samples of multi-views and show prospective customers how effective that style could be. Like with the main lobster and clam house, we've got the exterior view, we've got a dining room, and then we've got the kitchen where cooking is going on at full speed. So they're just really, they're little gems of
Where was the Iceland? Was that Rockefeller Center there?
I think that was around 51st Street. I have to look. Hold on a second. It doesn't say on the card.
Okay, thank you.
Kyle, you had a few cards that had the seal of New York City on them. Was that part of a series, or what was that? What were those cards about?
Yeah, that's part of the Landmarks of New York City series by Harry H. Bauman. There's about 38 cards, and like they show churches, they show a Joan of Arc statue in Riverside Drive area. Some views that are less common. By the Lennon era, some views had fallen out of favor, especially Central Park and things like the elevated railway. That's a nice series to have. I used to travel around a lot, going to different postcard shows, so that's how I was able to accumulate so many of that series.
Did the city of New York have something to do with it?
Just a little catchy design, to put the city's seal on it. I don't know whether it needed permission or whether that's in the public domain.
So you do see, especially if you fly through New York these days, lots of reproductions of the linen cards for sale.
Yes, you do.
And I wanted to ask, what do you think of this in the last, 10 years, a huge market of reprints? And what do you think of them? It's clear they're reprints. They're not trying to fool anyone that these are original.
The other thing is, to buy those, I either have to go to New York City, which from Toronto is always very expensive, or buy them online, which would be expensive as well. My collection is generally original cards that I've purchased over many years at postcard shows across Canada and the United States. Been to Wichita, I've been to New York a number of times, and so on. I don't get to New York City very often because there's some kind of cards that only appear there. They have a local aspect to them. They're not cards that are for tourists, but enough cards are purchased by tourists or sent to people outside of New York City that one can build up a big collection, a too big collection without any difficulty. Great cards from all eras. You can look at some of my other YouTube videos on the Wichita Postcard Club YouTube channel and see some excellent cards, early restaurants, Chinese restaurants in New York City and other places.
Kyle, can I make a few comments?
Sure.
So first, there is a book. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but it's called Postcards of the Night, Views of American Cities by John Jekyll. So if people are interested in nighttime scenes, I'm sorry, I can't really get it to focus on because of the way
You have to put it on your nose.
on my nose like this.
Yes. because you're the only picture that we can see is yours.
Right. And then the second is I love the Cadillac restaurant. That's where the aviation cocktail was created. And I have an earlier view card of that particular restaurant. So that was fun to see the one that you have.
There's so many great cards.
Yes, are most of your cards new or not?
It's a mixture. I've never calculated how many are mailed and how many are new. Sometimes certain series tend to be all new cards. It depends. Within some series, like the Harry Bauman Landmarks of New York City cards, some cards are harder to find than, for example, the aquarium at Battery Park is difficult to find. There was a question from Danielle about the New York City Ticknor series with a gold edge. I don't know anything in particular about that cards. There are variations of certain images, and one can only speculate that perhaps the postcard publisher found that putting a gold edge around them sold better, or that's all I might say on that.
Do you have any? So
I do have some.
I've been trying to figure out how they're numbered, because the numbering is sort of the same for the World's Fair ones, and that you can find the exact same card with the gold edge and without the gold edge. So I can't tell what year they are or why the difference is there, but it's almost the exact same series, and even like the numbers are the same with the gold edge and without the gold edge. So I just didn't know if you knew more. I'm having trouble finding out information about it as well.
Yeah, there's so much that's lost with respect to the production of cards. We do better with the Kurt Teich Company because so many of its production files have been preserved now at the Newberry Library in Chicago. Like, I'd like to know more about the Harry Bauman Company because it produced so many good cards, but there seems to be nothing at all online except copies of those different cards.
The Ticknor was there a Ticknor Brothers archive? Was there anyone who saved those?
Well, I believe they're online. In Massachusetts, I think it's the Digital Commonwealth, that the office copies of cards were put online.
Okay.
So people went out of business and things got destroyed in many cases. We have the final product, which is always pleasing to us. Anyway, these are great cards. They were the product of a critical mass of demand and printing excellence. The great metropolis in its various forms, whether it's at night looking from the Empire State Building, and there are nighttime views from the Empire State Building on real photo postcards, but they're just not the same as the nighttime view that we saw, looking towards the south tip of Manhattan from 86th Observatory floor. They're just not as alive.
Yeah, hi, Kyle. Yeah, I had an interesting experience in terms of buying linen postcards in New York. In 1972, I went to visit my grandparents who lived in the Jackson Heights section of Queens. And I got off the subway at 74th Street, and I got turned around and went out the wrong exit instead of the one I usually took to get to my grandparents' house 4 blocks away. And when I came out of the subway, there was a candy store. And that summer, I'd been on a quest to buy postcards of the 1964-65 World Series, and they were all over the place at candy stores. The people, I guess they hadn't sold. Well, in this particular candy store, there were all these linen postcards of New York City and elsewhere. That's why I got one of Coney Island, Manhattan. And the thing was, I didn't have much money on me because I spent all my money in Manhattan. So I said, I'll come back the next day with some more money. And then I couldn't find the place. It kind of impressed me that there were the older postcards from the 40s and 50s were still out there in candy stores. The neighborhood candy store, had postcards to sell, but probably didn't sell very many.
Hi. That was so cool. I love the cards. Thank you for that. I'm kind of a new collector and I haven't really settled on what I really want to focus on, but I'm really drawn to interiors. I love the one of the people in the kitchen of the restaurant. I love dining rooms. I love looking at bars and like the interiors. I know architecture is like, especially in the city, is like kind of the main draw, but I love just seeing like a dining area. Do you come across of a lot of interiors?
Oh, I have hundreds and hundreds of interiors. I have a large collection, large restaurant collection.
Nice.
There's lots of interiors. There's some great early ones with the customers as well, and
love
standing at those are some of the best. Something that's odd about, well, I find a little odd about restaurant postcards is that the restaurants are mostly empty. You know, there are no customers, but not always the case. But it seems to be some unwritten rule that 85% of the restaurant postcards must have empty interiors. But
So I collect a lot of motel postcards, and we see the same thing, a motel, and there's just this empty driveway in front of it. I'm like, this does not look like a great sales pitch to me.
You'll find a lot of motel room postcards too. They're fascinating, looking at the transition between radios in the room and televisions.
Yes.
And
I
whether
love
the
when they
television is on or not. Welcome to the world of postcards, by the way.
Oh,
Half of
thank
all of
you. Yeah, I love when it says like how many televisions they have or how big the TVs are or if they have an ice machine or not.
there are people who collect motel postcards with TVs in the TV is on, the card is worth more. Go figure, but no, that's the idiosyncratic world of collecting. And
I actually have one where there's a woman modeling using the ice machine, and I love that.
As a collecting for a long time, you just can collect anything you like. And one of these days, just let us know what you did, because every set of postcards put together is always fascinating. How people, why they put it together in a collection and why they look for it. That's the word of postcard, is limitless.
So the Wichita Postcard Club YouTube channel really has some tremendous presentations now by experts, people who might not feel themselves to be experts, but showcasing great cards across many different aspects of American and Canadian society, and also sometimes beyond North America.
I'll put on the chat, I'll put the link.
I'm not sure how to pronounce your first name, but where do you live?
Oh, my name is Rukaya. You can call me Kaya. I live in Brooklyn in Flatbush.
Oh, well, you got the Metropolitan Postcard Club, and
Yes.
also only a couple hours away, come November, there's a huge show in York, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The largest one in the United States, I believe.
At least in the East Coast for sure.
I call that place Postcard Mecca.
Yeah, it's huge. You'll find everything.
You have to make a Hajj like every year.
Oh my goodness. It's so exciting. Yeah, I get all the emails from the Metropolitan Postcard Club. That's how I found out about this tonight.
That's great. So thank you, Michael, for posting that to people like Rukaya.
That was good. Thanks.
Again, welcome.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you very much. That was great. It was really good. Nice.
Oh, you're most welcome. They're wonderful little vignettes of American life.